Hello everybody, welcome to the next tutorial. What this tutorial is going to entail is how to bring all the parts of your paper together. Plus I'm going to throw in some techniques on how to do some citations in here. We're going to go in order from page 1 all the way down to our reference page. But just to review, and remember this is for your entire paper, we want to have Times New Roman font, size 12. We also want to make sure that our margins are set to 1 inch. And we also want to make sure that our paragraph settings indicate line spacing double, spacing before and after. I saw some people forgot to do this. Make sure these both say 0 or things are going to look incorrect. And if you want, you can go ahead and set your special spacing to hanging. And that's going to help with your reference page when we get there. Now, this is our title page. If you haven't set this up properly, you can go to tutorial 1 and see how to do that. It's going to have the title of our paper right here, our name, the date, both of your instructor names, and the school name. Now the next page, and this should be indicated as page 1, go to tutorial 1 to see how to set this up if you have not set it up yet, because we want page numbers. No page number on the title page. Page 1 on the second page. And the second page is not going to be your outline. Remember, the outline is just a guide to set aside that you can follow to stay organized and know how you're going to set your paper up. So we're going to start with our introductory paragraph. This is the introduction section right here. Now you'll notice I didn't put the words introduction here. This is where I put the title of my paper unbolded. Then I wrote a paragraph, about 3 sentences. It doesn't have to be humongous. You don't want to have like 3 paragraphs that are your introduction. Usually 1 paragraph is sufficient for a 10-page paper, and a paragraph is typically 3 to 5 sentences. And the intro is just going to introduce what your paper is about and give kind of a hook statement here to get everyone attracted to the paper. Now this is all made up. I made up this technology. It's not for real. But the Hank Pym Imaginary Technology Particle System is poised to change the medical world and revolutionize the detection of irritable bowel syndrome. Fun, catchy sentence, may or may not get people interested. It sounds interesting to me, and I would want to read more about this article or this research paper. Now you'll also notice in this introductory paragraph, I didn't put any citations. This is all things that I came up with off the top of my head. Now you can put some citations in here if you're going to quote something from an article, but it's not necessary. This can all be original thought from you. I didn't start my citations till I got to my discussion. Moving on to that, before you start talking about the meat of your paper after the introduction, you're going to write the words discussion right here and bold them and center them. Then you're going to go to your first header, which you should have set up in your outline. So we're going to talk about the pathology first, and I just wrote the name of the pathology right here, irritable bowel syndrome. And that's where I'm going to start expanding on what the pathology is about. So you want to make sure whatever section you're writing in, that you stay relevant to the header that you set here. I'm talking about the pathology of irritable bowel syndrome, so I'm going to talk about the symptoms, where it comes from, so on and so forth. I don't want to be talking about the technology yet because I'm only focused on the pathology section. So once again, you want to divide up your paragraphs, and a paragraph should be about 3 to 5 sentences. Typically, you don't want 1 sentence, new paragraph. You don't want 2 sentences, new paragraph. Typically 3 to 5. Also, you want to divide your paragraphs up. You don't want to have a giant wall of text with no divisions. So I have 2 paragraphs here. Now going through this paragraph, I'm going to show you some of the citations that I did. I started with this one. Donahue, 2017, stated the prevalence of this disease will only increase as we expose our children to more and more lactose. Now you'll notice, and this is important, whenever you are doing a citation, make sure that you put things in the past tense. And the reason for that is this study was already conducted. This article was already written. It's not happening in present time. It already happened in 2017. So make sure you are using the past tense there. Also, as you look through here, there are no personal pronouns. There's no I's, there's no me's, there's no we's, and so on. And I started this section with a thought that I came up with. Irritable bowel syndrome, more commonly known as IBS, is a disease affecting thousands of Americans each year. I don't have to cite that because that's a thought that I came up with. And then right after I go into my first citation where I'm quoting from an article or a website right here. So I had my citation sentence, then I put another thought of my own. The symptoms may start simple, but can quickly spiral out of control if not treated quickly. So once again, even though we're doing citations on our research, you can put some of your own thoughts in there. Just make sure you're not using personal pronouns. Let's go to this next sentence. Tucker and Shepard, 2018, confirmed this statement in their study involving 100 test subjects. Now, right here, I have two authors. If we're citing at the beginning of a sentence, we're going to use the word "and" to separate the two authors right here, as you can see. If we were citing this at the end of a sentence, it would look like this one right here, Black and Laura, with ampersand and with parentheses around it. Okay? Now, something real important just to mention again, make sure when you put a period that you hit the space bar twice. You want to avoid having it look like this. That's one space, and that's going to stick out to me. I'm going to see it, and you're going to get points off for that. Make sure, just to show you, you space twice. 1, 2. That's the correct spacing for each of your sentences in a paragraph. Let's move along. Oh, also, just to state, I want to say that with citations in a paragraph, you want to avoid just having one citation in a paragraph if you can. Sometimes it's necessary depending on what we're talking about and how extensive that research was. But you want to try to have two different citations in your paragraphs to have comparisons of similarities or differences. This one right here is confirming the statement that Donahue made because they're similar piece of information. And that's what we call synthesis. We're synthesizing multiple sources and bringing them together to have the same ideas or different ideas. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So right here, the authors said if we do not start diagnosing this disease from an earlier age, we may face a pandemic of extreme proportions. Since I just cited them right here, I don't have to recite them here. Now, if I had cited a new author in this spot, I would need to cite them again when I started their thoughts again. Sounds a little confusing, but if you are continuing from what you already cited, you don't have to keep putting the same citation. You can just say the authors said, and that's talking about Tucker and Shepard. If I'd started a Donahue statement here, Donahue 2017, of course I would cite Donahue 2017 on this sentence. Let's move on. When looking for early signs to diagnose IBS, it can be easy to overlook symptoms and take them for granted. That's a thought that I came up with again, so I don't have to cite that. Once again, feel free to put some of your own personality in your paper and some of your own thoughts, but try not to be too biased with it. Let's go down here. The most common early sign found in patients is typically diarrhea. Black and Laura, 2015. Once again, that's at the end of a sentence, so we're using the ampersand. The symptom of diarrhea, if not treated properly, can lead to severe dehydration. That's one of my thoughts I put in there. Vance, Norsworthy, Hinton, and Fuller, 2015, claims diarrhea is the most dangerous of these signs and must be taken more seriously. Now I have 1, 2, 3, 4 authors here. Since I'm citing them for the first time in my paper, I'm going to write out all of their names. Now, if I use this citation again in my paper, since I cited it the first time, and this is only when you have 4 to 5 authors, or I'm sorry, 3 to 5 authors, you cite them first, you cite them all first. When you cite them again, as down here, we're going to write Vance, which is the first author. The first author is the one that gets the most credit. You're not going to do alphabetical, it's the first author listed on that article. Vance et al. Period, comma, 2015. Moving back up. In a different study, Donahue, 2017, argued diarrhea, although a serious symptom, is treatable and not a serious symptom to consider. Black and Laura, I'm using them again, but it's at the beginning of the sentence, so I'm using the word and. Black and Laura, 2015, also found diarrhea to be a less serious threat, comparing that to Donahue, who said the same thing. Regardless of these opinions, one should consider being looked at by a qualifying physician to see if this symptom is a result of IBS. One of my thoughts again. But what I wanted to show here is that we had differences of opinions. The study done by Vance, Norsworthy, Hinton, and Fuller was different from the study that Donahue, Black, and Laura found. You want to have some comparisons. Sometimes you want to find things that are similar. Sometimes you want to find things that are different. And that prevents us from having bias in our paper. And that's what we call synthesis once again. So mix up those articles, find comparisons, find differences, and put them in your paragraphs. So I finished talking about pathology. I'm going to go on to my technology. So I wrote out the name of the technology right here. The Hank Pilm Imaginary Technology Particle System. Excuse me. Now what I want to show here is just some different things that you'll find when you're citing. Once again, I'm using this source, Vance. This is the one with all the authors. Since I already cited above, I can write Vance et al., period, comma, with the date. Now, if I have an author that has if I have an article that has 6 or more authors, I'm going to write this et al. The first time. You only write them all out the first time if it's between 3 and 5. Just to restate that. 6 or more, you do et al. The first time. Say this technology will completely revolutionize the medical world. Now, sometimes you may have 2 authors with the same last name. If this happens, you want to use the first initials of their names to differentiate between the 2 authors. J. Donahue and H. Donahue 2018 claimed, blah, blah, blah. If you have 2 articles within the same year with the same last name, what you would do is write, for example, Tucker 2017 A, in another study, Tucker 2017 B. This is only if you have authors that wrote, if you have 2 authors with the same last name and they're in the same year. If this said 2018, we wouldn't need to put the A and B. It's only if they're within the same year and with the same last name. Now, a lot of your articles or research may come from a website or a company. Obviously, sometimes they won't have authors. What you're going to do is take the name of the company. The technology was not effective. Center for Fake Technology 2017. You want to find the name of the company or the name of the website with the date that article was published on the website, and that's how you would cite that. Now, bringing it all together, we're going to go to our conclusion. Conclusion is going to be bolded and centered, just like it was with the discussion up here. And we're going to wrap our paper up. Once again, I didn't use citations here. This is all thoughts from me. I'm not using personal pronouns, but I'm giving my own original thought on how I thought the study was. Although the research on this subject was very thorough, it does not conclusively prove Hank Pym Imaginary Technology Particle System is an effective means of diagnosing IBS. It would be beneficial to revisit this study after more years of research have been conducted and published. IBS is a very serious condition. With many more years of research and development, a technology for early diagnosis will hopefully become a more reliable method. So I'm stating that I didn't think the study was sufficient enough to prove that this is effective, and it would be really good to go back in the future when there's been more research and revisit this study. It's talking about the disease again here and wrapping it up. So your conclusion just briefly wraps up what your paper was about again and states whether you think the research was effective or not. Now, when you get done with your conclusion, you're going to start a new page, and that's where you would start your reference page. And just to double check, guys, again, when you start these new pages, always go back and double check your formatting. Make sure you're still on Times New Roman. Make sure you still have 12 font. Make sure that your paragraph settings still have double spacing, and your special settings are still at hanging, and your spacing is 0 and 0, and that you still have your page numbers. Especially if we're putting these documents together on separate documents, the formatting may not transfer properly. So always go back, double check yourself, double check your formatting to make sure it's all consistent through the whole paper. And one more time, guys, I say this in class, but make sure when you from your introduction all the way down to your conclusion, you need 10 pages of information. The reference page and the title page do not count in that numbering. 10 pages of the meat of your paper. Okay, guys, that about wraps it up. Once again, if you have any more questions, please don't hesitate to contact me and let me know. I'll be glad to answer your questions. Refer to all the tutorial videos, refer to the documents I sent out, and good luck to you. I can't wait to see what you put out. Have a great day.